Yo, BJ Gaddour with the Get Some Gains podcast, and my special guest today is the Jeremy Shore. I call him Jay Shore, and it's not Jersey Shore, though maybe you've gotten that reference over time. But this dude he's a longtime member of the fitness community. Met him, I think, over a decade ago at this Master Trainer conference for Dynamax. And Dynamax is the leader in medicine ball training, also has the best medicine ball on the market, in my opinion. I've got one right here. You get them in different colors too, but I've always been such a fan of this device because of the size of it, the padding, and we use it a ton at the workouts we do at thedailybj.com, stuff I'll share on YouTube as well. And it's just an awesome device, and there's a lot more to it. We're going to talk today about, the benefits of med ball training. We'll talk about Jeremy's favorite exercises. I'll share some of mine too. And we'll talk, solo drills, partner drills, wall drills, difference between a medicine ball and a slam ball. There's also some really cool new products they've got. They finally have their own slam ball. And there's also the SLOG, all right, which looks a little bit NC-17 when you first see it, but a really cool kind of unconventional training device with so many applications. Jeremy was showing me a bunch of stuff before we started recording. And by the way, we're doing this on our traditional audio outlets, iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, but also on YouTube. So there's going to be some visual demonstrations where we can to kind of bring a lot of this stuff to life. And you also will be able to get 10% off Dynamax products today through my link. Description will have the clickable links as well and the coupon code. So Jeremy, welcome to the show, man.
Man, so good to be here, BJ. We go way back, obviously. Probably almost 12 years now at this point. And so it's always been good to stay in touch with you, my friend. And we've kind of gone in many different directions, and our paths cross like at least annually over the last 12 years. So it's good to be here and good to share some medicine ball love with you, my man.
Well, man, it has been a long time. I just turned 40. You're approaching 50, right?
In age, 40, I'm 47, I think. Yeah, I think I'm 47. I'm getting there, man.
Looking great, staying in shape. I just actually, before we recorded too, you sent me a link of the library of some of these SLOG exercises. Dude, you still got it. You're moving well, feeling good. Before we start talking about the ball, how about some tips? Because you're obviously, you're a living example of being fit over 40. You've got a bunch of kids in the house. You're involved in multiple things, obviously heavily with Dynamax. What are some quick tips in terms of longevity and staying in the game?
Man, 40 is a funny decade, right? Because that's when you really start seeing, especially men, kind of really go downhill, or sometimes they excel and become like fitter than they've ever been in their lives, right? And I think that's
Good
what's
point.
really, and it comes down to decisions and how much value we place in that kind of health and wellness bucket, right, in our life, because we have a lot of things wanting your attention in your 40s. Usually you're in the kind of getting into the peak of your career. If you have a family like I do, and I have 4 kids, you have to care for your wife and your kids. You've got work, you've got, and then extracurricular activities, which are usually centered around the kids anyway. So making time for health and fitness is not easy, and it's not easy for me still. But I've kind of gotten to that place in life where I have to just make it as easily accessible as I can. A lot of times I'm working out at home. I think that's a big one. Like the more barriers to entry to get to work out or to exercise, or the more things you think you need to get fit, sticking to it's a lot harder. So I've had a little grace with myself. I watch what I eat. I take care of myself. I try to sleep. I try to get to bed a little earlier than I used to, which seems to help me. I really limit, if any kind of alcohol intake, like some of that kind of stuff, which used to be a little more part of my life in my 30s and early 40s. Now I really can feel the difference and the impact it has, because I want to feel good to play with my kids. I want to feel good enough to get up and even if it's a 20-minute workout. A lot of times my workouts are like sub 30 minutes. That's all I have. And that's probably the majority of my week, like 5-6 days a week, 30-minute workouts, and that's it. And that's what it's been like for probably a few years now. But the consistency was huge there.
And you're putting together like full body circuits, or just kind of free flowing, you're also like kind of a playful guy with your fitness, right? Like you like to mess around, have some fun, and getting quality movement. But what does that look like, for you? Like what'd you do last week for training?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I am kind of a circuit guy. Like I don't, because my time is precious, I don't sit around when I work out. It's like I will build a workout based usually on the anatomically, like the side of the body. This is kind of how I've been doing for quite a few years, where I'll go, excuse me, if it's like a front side day, I might like, no, I'm going to hit chest, biceps, quads, abs. And that's like one day. And then it might be a vertical overhead lateral day where I might do some lateral work. I might do some overhead pressing, some of that stuff. And then the one day might be more backside where I'm hitting a little more butt, calves, back, triceps. So I kind of started breaking down the body into 3 halves almost. And that just helps me quickly program. Like, okay, I need to work in some legs, need to work in a little cardio, need to work in some core and some, just depending on what side of the body I am on. So that helps me think quickly. And then I just varied my tools up within that. I don't need a lot, but daily a workout will have, I use my SLOG a lot now, but I'll use some form of, a dumbbell or kettlebell movement. I'll use some form of like, some kind of med ball, some kind of explosive training. I got a TRX around a tree outside, so I'm getting some stability, some mobility work. I do foam roll, probably 4 or 5 times a week. I'm doing some kind of SMR, like take care of my tissue type stuff. And that's it, man. There's not like a super secret sauce like you have, but that's why you're in business, right? Because you have the super secret sauce. Mine's more like I'll take tips from BJ Gaddour and I like weave them into my little 20-minute when I can. So
I don't know, man. We're doing our best, and I feel like half the battle, and some people might get offended by this, is like you don't smoke or drink, like it's and you sleep, things kind of go a little bit better for you. And there are plenty of people that can work in alcohol in moderation. Smoking is that's a tough one, man. It's like that's just a tough situation. Those 2 things, though, really do age you, and you start to see the difference between people who have done a lot of that and haven't done a lot of that, like you said, entering your 40s. So it really is, like, I feel like it's a true crossroads as you enter midlife. And like you said, you can make that decision. You can go here, and it's like, let me take all this knowledge I've learned about my body and apply it at a master's level. Maybe find ways to get more out of myself in some ways. Maybe not necessarily raw strength power, but maybe your mobility improves, your conditioning, your endurance. And the other path is like, fuck it, like that's it. I'm just going to get old and fat and weak. And so it is a choice. And you're obviously someone that has made the right choices and continues to. You ever just like get a workout in with your kids, just playing activities or sport? I mean, I lately sometimes I'll do it as like a finisher. I'll do tug of war with my dog, and we actually go in the pool and do it too. Or I'll just try to make a day of just like running around with her and throwing the ball. And just sometimes you just have to find a way to stay busy, but you also have to, like you said, you've got commitments. And if she doesn't get her play in, she gets kind of anxiety and gets restless. I'm sure it's the same way with younger kids. So how much play do you use to get in your fitness?
It's interesting. I kind of set up our environment for that kind of play success for my kids. So they're like my 2 boys and even my daughter now, they play baseball and competitively, which is cool. Like, and not the most athletic sport. There's a lot of athleticism involved in baseball, but like I was a collegiate soccer player. I come from, basketball. There's these really dynamic, high cardio, sports you can be a part of. Baseball's a little more mental. There's a lot more that goes into it. So like as a second sport for them, I got them into like Ninja Warrior, like you see on the TV show.
Oh, wow.
And so that was something I could kind of build around our home. So I've got my back patio has cliffhangers that run down it. I've got straps connected to all my trees with different holds and grips and slack lines connecting for balance training. I build boards. So there's all of these elements. And then there's a lot of my things like BOSUs and pods and our SLOGs where I'll just throw them out in the yard, and they build courses and they run on them. So I'm getting them to kind of play in this little competitive environment, and I'll do stuff with them all the time as well. And so it's been cool. So by just having that available to them, Like my son, my 11-year-old just won the state championship in Ninja Warrior, is slated to be on the 2028 Olympic team. And it's not because he's coming from this roots of like Olympic, ninja like me. But because I've given him as a kid, and I think this is just an encouragement to parents out there, make it accessible and easy for your kids to engage with fitness without it having to be like sets and reps. Sometimes the play side to what you mentioned, giving them a slack line or a pull-up bar or some cliffhangers, things that they can kind of just smaller and their bodies are adapting. It's cool to see what happens. Because I wish I had a lot of that stuff as a kid. I didn't start getting into fitness, even though I was healthy until I was an athlete until I was my late teens. But it's, they're getting to engage a lot younger, playful way, which is cool.
We hear that all the time, people that are members of the dailybeacher.com and a lot of busy parents professionals, like you said, they commit to 3 20-minute workouts a week, full body, circuit style for the most part. And a lot of times their kids will mimic. They'll see them doing spider climbers and they get in there. And again, it's an example you set. And like anything in life, I think the best way is to lead by example. Don't force it on people. Don't be too much of a preacher about it. Be a teacher, be a coach when people ask. And you're obviously doing a great job of that. And that's kind of how you create a culture within your house. Because it's important, man. Like, it's hard when only one person in the house is on board with a healthy and active lifestyle. So the more you can kind of make it, a team thing, that's great. And, obviously we went through the last couple of years, a really challenging time. The fitness industry in a lot of ways has been decimated. People that you and I have known that were in it for a long time are in completely different fields. So it's been kind of sad in that regard, but there were a few sectors of fitness that did really well. Our buddy, Dave, the Bandman Schmitz, he had some of his best sales of all time. I know for Dynamax, it was like, it was a great time to sell med balls. People were stuck at home. So you want to kind of talk about how that went and kind of your involvement in general with Dynamax. You've been involved with them on and off for a long time, but I just thought it was interesting because it was one of the few success stories like Zoom, Clorox, Dynamax had a great time during the pandemic.
Yeah. That it was like if you can find good that has come out of that. I mean, I guess there's been some good that's come out of it. There's been a lot of, obviously, more bad than good in many ways. And it was interesting to watch. I was with Dynamax. I started with Dynamax back when I first met you. So that was kind of, 12 years ago. And I'd worked for them for about 5 or so years. I left and went over to Matrix, which is a bigger fitness equipment company. And I was with them for about 5 years. And I know we had some interaction when I was there. And then I left Matrix and then COVID hit. So I wasn't working. I was in between before I came back to Dynamax, because a lot of the equipment companies, all of a sudden, they couldn't do anything around education, which was really my specialty. I was, developing programming, group education, and this kind of stuff. So all of these smaller companies, we'll say small, but like not the big metal companies, but a lot of these companies that were making accessory products like medicine balls, all they could do was figure out how to keep inventory and ship inventory as fast as they could, because they were just like selling. And there was a lot of those companies weren't really used to selling direct to consumer either, which would be like direct to people who like follow you. They all of a sudden are like, medicineballs.com, like I want to order a medicine ball for the first time. They hadn't really thought about it because they had access to them at the gym. Like, so they all go to a gym. Now gyms are closed. So we're like, okay, I've got to figure out the home gym, that concept. I got to do something at home. And people want to stay healthy. And maybe one of the good things that came out of it is a lot of people took it as like, wow, I really need to care for myself. Like, we're not guaranteed anything, right? So I want to be like the me I can be and the healthiest I can be. I want to be here for my kids and my family. Like, nothing's guaranteed. So there became this like realization of our location, I think, during that time. And so in fitness was benefited for a lot of people. Like, I'm going to take care of myself now. So anyway, so they did, yes, they did. And then the reality, I think, like over like starting last year, all of these companies that had done so well during COVID, all of a sudden were like, wow, where all the sales go? Because things started opening back up. People had already bought everything they need. And then, trainers and coaches, wow, train again. But some of them, like you said, had already taken off and gone to real estate or whatever that is.
Medical sales devices. I was apparently a big one.
Yeah. So, like you, we're all figuring out how to re-engage our whole industry. Everyone, we need to figure out what does that look like? How do people want to be educated? How do people want to be coached? How do people want to be trained? As you found, probably a large community is now like comfortable with really having you train them one-on-one or at a group setting virtually, which has been great. That's a whole new market that really exploded. That was there. You had early on, but now it's like a little more had become almost common, right? So anyway, yeah. So it's been good. So now Dynamax, we are growing again. Like we're trying to get back to where we were. What happened? It was like ridiculous numbers. Thankfully, they didn't look at it like this is how it's going to be forever, like some companies did. And as we saw, it got destroyed. So anyway, it's exciting now because we're kind of like I'm in a place of now reintroducing Dynamax, a 37-year-old company, back to the world.
Well, you're the right person to do it, man, with the network you've created. And, you've really, you're an A-level world-class consultant. I've seen you do it with multiple companies. You have a great way about you, like you're easy to talk to. I remember one of the things we were at together, I think it was the Dynamax Master Trainer Conference. And I share this, and again, I won't get into specifics, but because, the person matters. And you were dealing with an individual that was kind of giving you a tough time or using some foul language, and the grace that you handled that's always stuck with me. Because I remember, like, me at the time, I would have it could have been an altercation, but you were just so cool, calm, and collected. And that's something I would like to aspire to be kind of under fire. I just want to kind of give you that praise because that's something people listening wouldn't know. And that's always stuck with me, man. And you're the right person to do it. It's kind of funny. It sounds like what happened is, and I feel like the same way anyone in fitness has noticed, like you're stuck at home and people are like, okay, I'm going to try. People that weren't already into home fitness are like, let me give this a shot. And all the people that would be interested in giving it a shot probably got balls. And people that were like, you know what, I'm done. I'll just wait till I can go back to the gym. Whether they are back at the gym now or not, I think is probably, because once you get off the routine, man, you know how it is. It's tough to get back on the horse. That's why, like, people like you and I, we never stop. Mm-hmm. We never stop. We do something at least, something active at least once a day, whether it's structured or not. And at least, once or twice a week, there's some sort of quote unquote training because we never want to lose it. But then people realize, oh, like, I tried it. I don't like it. I like to go to the gym because I don't want to see I need a break from my kids, my partner. Some people just can't do it. Like, if you're working from home, like everyone was working from home and everything took place at home and you wanted to get out of the home. So, it's really interesting to see people's kind of behaviors and, did we really actually get more people into fitness through the pandemic, or was it just an initial surge and then people were like, this isn't for me? Because in some ways, I wonder sometimes, especially for Americans, if fitness will actually work for Americans. That sounds kind of like cynical, but I don't know. It's interesting, man. I don't know if it's ever going to be what it needs to be, which is just like part of your DNA. It just becomes who you are. And I think we just got to do the best we can to, like you said, re-engage people and meet them where they're at and educate. Really, I think that's the key. Because everyone's now sharing free workouts and, there's so much out there. When you and I first met, I mean, it wasn't very competitive at all. Right.
Yeah. And we were in the DVD world, right? We were doing stuff in Men's Health and Runner's World and different companies in that space. And the communication at that time working at like that was it, right? There was not really streaming. The streaming, you were kind of one of the pioneers with some of your early businesses, and there were some companies that were doing it, but it was still really early adopters that were going to jump into that space. And now it's kind of, now how do you kind of break through the noise a little bit? And because people are still like, you could still spend a bunch of money and get really flashy and get people's eyeballs, but your content may not be great, or like what you're actually sharing with people, where, you may have a lot of really good stuff vehicle to share it, or know how to reach the point. But yeah, I get what you're saying about Americans. Like, it's an interesting thing because I work a lot with international customers as well, and coaches and trainers, and they're way more. It's really interesting. Like, they're not sell products or bring products to market. So that's very important to them. In the US, it's not so much. And the US is a little bit of the movie mentality, where it's a lot of consumption and for our own comfort. Like, we work hard to be comfortable, but it's in the, when we're uncomfortable is usually when we're growing and getting better and bigger and stronger and healthier and mentally, physically, spiritually, all those things. It's being willing to put ourselves in situations, I think. And that's what we have been marketed to so much to avoid. You don't want to do anything. You don't want anything uncomfortable. You don't want to do anything like, but how do we make this as easy as possible? So, as you know, fitness isn't easy. It's not easy to take care of yourself, so to speak. So back to that point, what tools, what things can you integrate into make it accessible? So whether it's a 5-minute set of squat to rows or something, whatever that is, squat to presses, that you can integrate like throughout a day, that is like, wow, I just tripped on that foam roller, I should probably roll my calves. Just like that habit formation, because we are so distracted and so spread right now. So like, where are you going to invest your time and your energy? What's going to make the most sense?
Yeah, and it is a microwave society. They want it fast, they want it quick, they want it easy. Can't have your cake and eat it too. There's got to be an exchange of, like you said, the greater the challenge, the greater the reward. And, what we did learn about this last couple of years is that, sadly, the people that were dealing with, obesity had really poor outcomes with this COVID thing, man. Yeah. Like, there is a lot to be said. There's genetics. There's so many things to get into without, opening up that Pandora's box. But, man, you've got a real stake in your health. You do. You really do. Your behavior matters, and hopefully people have learned that lesson and kind of adopted the habits. But let's get into med ball training. I think a lot of people think slam it. Maybe they know you can throw it. It's very popular in the box CrossFit gyms. That's maybe where some people got first exposed to it. And Dynamax is it's the leader. It's been doing it a long time. You'll see any kind of high level pro athlete setup or a CrossFit gym, those are the balls you'll see. So but like you said, now entering more mainstream home fitness, what really got you to want to get involved with Dynamax, and what do you love about medicine ball training?
Man, I didn't know how much I would love medicine ball training or the brand until I got involved with them. I was living in New York City at one point. I was running a gym. I was coaching, and some of the med balls kind of found their way into my facility, into the place where I was managing. And it was just like I was just attracted to it. There was something cool about this big squishy-ish ball that I was like, I didn't even know why I loved it. It's kind of like I knew med ball moves. Like, it just felt right. And I don't know how else to say it. And I said, I'd be cool to work for a company like this someday. So it's one of those things where when we moved to Austin, Texas, back in like into 2009 and 2010, I literally crossed paths. I started working for Trigger Point, which is the foam, SMR kind of foam rolling company. I was working for them, running their education. I kind of got a job there randomly. I was one of the first guys to kind of step into that role during that time. And then met the Dynamax people. Happened to be here in Austin as well. I had no idea. I didn't know about the heritage or the history about the ball. I just had seen it around as an athlete and stuff, but didn't know anything about it. And got to know those guys, and they ended up offering me a job to come in and run the education for them as well. So, but what that for me was, okay, well, I got to step back. How long has this ball been around? They're like, since 1985. I'm like, are you kidding? Like, I didn't know that there was this really cool heritage that was connected to it. So I spent, the first couple of years, a lot of time with the founders of the company, and learning. Like, I just wanted to hear and learn and sit back and not try to act like I knew I could bring some to the table, but they had already traveled globally. They had spent so much time like in this training facilities of the top pro sports teams, top college teams. It is one of the tools where it could gain you access, let's just say, into any training facility, just because the athletes have this connection to this piece of equipment that they don't brand. I would see advertisements with LeBron James throwing a Dynamax, or Venus Williams, or you'd see other commercials happening and there would be a Dynamax ball in it, because there was this association with athleticism, with the elite athletes are going to train with this ball. So I came to learn what the education that they had attached to that ball early on, teaching athletes how to be explosive, how to use their bodies to transfer force, because they were squatting, pressing, and curl, whatever. They were moving metal, but the athleticism, beauty of what all of that muscle did came together when they started learning how to throw and learning how to be explosive and travel with a training tool. So there's so many levels to it, but I grew and learned a ton about it. Obviously, yes, you mentioned it was a big part of CrossFit. So CrossFit was a similar situation. When they were starting and doing their first, let's say their first training courses for people who are going to open up boxes, they invited out the original founder of Dynamax. They were looking around at what tools are elite athletes using, right? So that's similar. So let's think about what CrossFit uses. What do elite athletes use? Barbells and bumper plates, right? That was a primary tool. And that's the primary thing you see in CrossFit, right? And then there was obviously running, and there were some elements of calisthenics that were involved. And then they were like, what other tool? The Dynamax ball. So they knew that was so connected to military stuff, pro football and whatever. That's the tool we want to use in there. So it became a piece of it because of the story it already told. So I think, Dynamax had nothing to do with CrossFit adopting them as the ball. It just kind of happened because they were this elite training tool. And so we got to have it. So there was good and bad in that. They do a huge part of Dynamax's business, but there's a large part of the world that say, oh, cool wall ball. So they just see it as hey, unfortunately it was limited to 2 exercises within the CrossFit community.
For sure. Yeah, no. And again, you're getting into why, so it's so good for wall ball, because the size of it allows you to kind of hold it at shoulder level, and then it's padded. And that's what's so great about some of the partner drills. When you throw it and a partner receives it, you can absorb the load without, those other rubber medicine balls just, they hurt, and they're not designed for that. And you're showing it right now on video for our video listeners. Yeah. It just, that to me has been, because I'll use it not just for traditional strength training, but I use it a lot for breathing. I'll use it to kind of put it into my belly to kind of push against. I'll hold it when I'm doing shin box stretching, or put it onto my back hip to help press the pelvis into the floor. It's one of those really great things I have around the living room for stretching, breathing. And again, obviously the higher end athletic applications of throwing. One thing that always stood out is you talk about the summation of force and that payoff moment, where it's one of the only tools where you can let go of it. Mm-hmm. You can't let go of your dumbbell unless you're trying to, tear shit up. So there really are some unique aspects to it that a lot of people don't realize. And I think one thing you talk about, at least on the website too, is the dangers of people, not that you can't use it like a mix of what a sandbag or a dumbbell or a kettlebell could be in some ways. You can halo it, you can hold it, front load it, you can do some of those drills too, but that's not what it was really originally designed for.
Yeah. I think people will look at a medicine ball and kind of put it in the same category as a dumbbell sometimes. So they'll be like, okay, well, I need to have a set of medicine balls. I need to have 4 pounds, 6 pound, 8 pounds. And then I'm just going to go buy, if I'm buying medicine balls, let's just get a whole set. And then my progression is connected to the weight. So with a dumbbell, right? You're like, okay, I'm great at doing 35 pound, incline flies. Right. And then I'll go to 40 and I go to 45. So with the Dynamax ball, that's not really what it was designed for. It's not a dumbbell, right? So of course you can hold it and squat with it and do all those things. That's fine. But there's probably tools that might be better for some of those things. But back to the original creation of it. Yeah. You mentioned its size, right? The size was to be the same kind of width or generally the same width as the shoulders. So to keep the shoulders in a neutral position. So when we're doing throwing and catching and doing things, it's shoulders safe. The soft shell was also a big part of that because, yeah, we wanted to be able to throw the ball with a partner or maybe against a wall or something like that. And it could absorb that impact or have a consistent rebound that would come off and not damage something. So having the soft shell and the tackiness of it, the way that it's made, that it's easy to catch and easy to throw, do those type of things. So it kind of solved all these problems at the time. That was when they created the ball. They're like only had the smaller, kind of hard, weird looking, milk dud looking medicine balls at the time. So they're like, we need something bigger. I want to be explosive with this. I want to throw it on it. So they were solving a problem in the mid 80s that was out there. And I don't think they even knew how important what they created would be. And they were smart guys. One was an athletic trainer at the University of Texas. One was a professor at a local college. One was a director of a Central Texas YMCA. So they were smart. They knew fitness and they were track and field. So they understood the foundation of movement. So everything that they started creating from a programmatic standpoint is really built around almost like a decathlon. Like a lot of the patterns and movements and throwing with the shot, whether it's a sprint, a lot of the elements that when we train with these lighter medicine balls are to almost, they appear like track and field patterns, which they are because that's their roots.
I love that. And one thing I have to give a shout out because one of the things I took from the Master Trainer Conference all those years ago was this concept of wheels, the hub and spoke. And this past year at Express, which is our busy parent professional program, I'm like, all year I'm going to make as many wheel workouts as I can. So there's 60 total wheel workouts using a variety of tools, body weight, bells, bands, med ball, and people really like them. And what I like about the wheel format is it gives you one move to focus on. So, there's a main move and there's accessory movements you bounce between. So let's say that for our purposes, I know you're not a huge fan of the slam, but if the slam is a wheel, you do the slam, you go to a push-ups, you go back to the slam, you go to lunges, you go back to the slam, you go to planks. So it allows you to, in some ways, people like the variety of it. And it's always kind of nice to go back home. Too many movements, it gets tough for exercise recall. But so I like it from the standpoint that it gives you the feel of doing a lot more movements technically than you are. You always go back to one move so you don't forget the movement, and it gives you a focus so you can actually overload a particular movement more because it gets more total volume, more total sets. And and there's so many different work to rest periods where you can make it rep based. But I have to give credit, like that, it's from Dynamax. I'm like, well, this is an awesome training template that can be used for metabolic conditioning, or even if you wanted to make kind of metabolic bodybuilding, you kind of make the hub. You can make the hub push-ups and then go to flies or presses, like to get a lot of local fatigue in a short period of time. So there's just endless applications to it. But in particular, what's really cool when you see a med ball wheel, especially with like a partner, where like someone's doing the knee taps, and then you go to throwing it back or over the sit-up throws to, rotational throws. Like it looks really cool when you see it in application.
Yeah, that's one of my, I would say, for sure, favorite programming formats that I learned from those guys as well, from their founders of Dynamax. And it's part of our education. So when I travel and teach, and I work with coaches, we teach in that format. We have a few different formats, but that's the primary format. And we primarily use it in our ground-based stuff. With kind of our trunk training stuff, our sit-up throws, Russian throws, double knee strikes, bridge throws, a lot of that stuff, which we teach and is a lot of fun to do. You do need a partner for the most part, or you can use a wall with a lot of that stuff, which is a lot of fun. But yeah, that's one of my favorite programming formats. And I know the University of Texas did a study, and if I had all the details, I would share it. But I don't want to misspeak. Compared to like kettlebell training, they used a wheel and they picked an exercise as the hub that was highly metabolic. Like it was like, and I think it was log tosses. I think they were doing log tosses, like, exactly. And they did this whole like 8-foot wheel and it had such an impact on VO2 max, like that they were stunned, like at the university level, because like you said, you get such volume in it. You'll have like 600 to 800 pounds of volume in it, like 2 or 3 minutes, because you're like working through and it's a rhythm or a flow, really easy to remember and understand. And I've used it a ton for other tools as well. So That's a good call out. And you mentioned slam. So then we can talk about that real quick because it's like
let's go right to the, because again, people don't realize you slam that ball, you lose the warranty.
So right, and people are like, what? Because back to the point, like, what is it? What is this ball, right? You know, so it's funny how many people, especially now, they're like, oh, it's a slam ball or it's a wall ball. And so like you almost have to tag it as one of those. And if you're trying to sell it or put it online, you almost have to tag it, even though wall ball's a great exercise. I'll perform wall balls, great total body exercise, good for some accuracy and some total body conditioning stuff, upper body, some strength. And then people love slamming the ball, right? So just disclaimer here. I like slamming. So it's not that I don't enjoy slamming. It's just what we slam, I think, is the difference. So the thing about the Dynamax ball is it's got a good bit of rebound, right? And I know that slamming it like makes a loud noise, which is kind of fun. It's kind of a fun and easy exercise to perform. And this ball is such quality that you could probably slam it for 10, 15 years. If you're in a gym or a studio and there's like a mat and you're using in a controlled environment, the ball's going to hold up forever. The issue is this slope of, especially with home workouts now, right? So people are in their driveways or on rough concrete, throwing against rough walls, and they may have like multiple large men ball team. They could be out in a parking lot in off season, and they're just slamming it into the concrete over and over again, right? So that's not going to hold up. Like there's nothing real, very few things that will. And the fact that there's going to be a lot of rebound, like when you slam a Dynamax ball, that you almost take away the beauty of the post you get, right? So that's the thing that happens with a slam ball. Proper slam balls going to almost die, right? So you have to go get the ball. You have to squat, get that pattern, take the ball all the way back up overhead. So I'm getting this total posterior chain activation that's happening on my backside before I go back into the anterior, like explosive downside. So the balance is great, right? So so people are always asking, like, well, use a slam ball. So we did come out with a slam ball, which is, we have a couple coming out. And so now we have the Dynamax D ball, which is, again, there's a logo that says, Dynamax made, athlete approved, just like the ball always is, and always will be. But this ball is going to hit and it's going to die more, right? So if I'm here, I show you, a Dynamax ball, I'm going to bounce it. The ball is almost bouncing back up to me, right? If I take a D ball, it's going to slam down. It's going to stay on the ground. I've got to kind of go down and get it, and then I've got to. So it's going to have much less rebound, and I'm going to have to stay down or lower myself with that weight, and it becomes a much better, more metabolic, like total body movement than just a rebounding ball. It becomes very shoulder dominant.
For sure, yeah. And again, like there's sometimes I'll program slams based on the protocol or the work period to have more turnover. So sometimes you do want the bounce, but like if we're talking max power and kind of approaching it as like a single rep at a time with a recoil, like a cycle, that's when you do want a traditional slam ball, which is, again, it's designed for it. A lot of times what happens though is, people, especially now, man, economy is not doing great. Inflation and prices are out of control. So when people tend to buy a ball, they want to use it for all the types of things they can do with it. So just the knowledge of trying to make sure that the wall or surface you use ideally isn't so, it's not serrated or it's not overly, I don't know what the term is, textured so that it would wear the ball down, or hard. Like grass would be better if you're going to slam it on the ground, right? Yeah.
And like pretty much any wall. I mean, I would just say, we always say smooth and reinforced. Don't like throw it through your drywall. But if you have like a painted concrete wall, there's a lot of walls you can find, and it can take it. Like you're working, you're not working with gravity, throwing it down into like a rough surface over and over again. And the ball, if it ever does bust, it's usually because it's on a rough surface and it's on the seam, and they just hit it over and over like on one of the seams. We use such high, again, they're all handmade, like right outside of Austin. They've been the same way for 37 years. And it really is, I always liken it to like an Italian leather shoe. Like it's going to break in, it's not going to break down. So like my best ball is I can use it wherever I want. And some slamming is not really going to 100 exercises. You can probably that ball, and all you do is go slam it every day. You're going to, first off, you're just kind of limiting this amazing gift of a training tool, and you're using it for one thing. And so that's one coach will get it. He's like, okay, you guys are in 20 kids at a time over there parking lot. And then you're like, well, you just missed out on a ton of athleticism, because especially for a kid, younger guys, I don't need them to be in power flexion. I need to be them in power extension. I need them to open up and be explosive outward, not be closing off, unless they're like an MMA guy. But that's a different conversation. We do have there is also like a line of balls that I would suggest if you are like in a rougher environment. There's a couple of things. One, we are doing a 14-inch in that slam ball. It's going to be coming out at the beginning of the year. So it'll have that same size, and you can beat it like if parking lots, rough, whatever. And that's a movement that you want to do. So you'll have one in your mailbox as soon as they come in, BJ. So I'll send it to you. And then we have an elite. You'll be excited. So we have an elite line. And so the difference in this is a little more expensive, but it's like triple stitched. So it's really made to like hold up to kind of more intense beatings. So if that's going to be kind of like your MO, I'm going to go, I got to get a lot of slamming in. It's just part of our patterns and what we do. I would just encourage you, do it in an area where it's like not rough, not concrete. And then you may want to do like an elite level ball, which has a little bit more secure stitching, because it's got one more layer of stitching on top, just so that's less likely to happen. Let's
talk the next. So, we talked about it's more than just for slams or wall ball. And those listening to, wall ball basically is where you get up against a wall, you squat down, and you throw the ball up to hit as high as you can on the wall, then you catch it and go back down. Just for those who may not know what that is. So we'll get into more of the movements too, but again, talk about mistakes. People will apply the same kind of like, let's get heavier and heavier with the load, when really like most exercises will be best done with a 4 to 10 pound med ball. Even like some of your 200 plus pound athletes, if it gets too heavy, it becomes more of a grinding strength exercise, and you're not really training speed or power the way that you're intending. So people tend to go too heavy, or have to think that if it's not 20 pounds or more, I'm wasting my time. Touch a little bit on loading. And again, I think people ask me a lot of times too, like with dumbbells, like what weights would you recommend to have? Like I like to have a light, medium, and heavy pair you can mix between. So maybe what is that, a 4, a 10, a 20? Like in terms of setting up a home gym and what loads that are, what's the smartest loading selection in your expert opinion?
Good question. So weight wise, there is a population where maybe, and I won't like typecast anyone, maybe there's either a more deconditioned population, or like a population not pushing a ton of weight. And the Dynamax ball is a great, like, safe option for them for doing front squats and doing some of those things, which are, for the general fitness community. Like if you're going to start getting into like I said, 10, 12 pounds, and you're starting to do patterns like that, there's probably better tools, like get a landmine attachment for a barbell, grab some dumbbells, grab a kettlebell. Like you're starting to look at it like load from a strength-based application. A lot of the patterns we do are more from an explosive, which is what we start losing a ton. Like once we get after our 30s and our 40s, like our type 2 A, B, X, whatever you want to call it, start degrading, right? We start losing that first. And that's the quick muscle action. And that's the most highly metabolic muscle tissue as well. But if we don't use it, we lose it, right? So doing more explosive, more fast patterns are super important. Like 40 plus, like you have to find ways to do that. Adding in some jump squats, adding in some plyometric based patterns, adding in some upper body plyometric stuff, which is like what we can do with the Dynamax ball. But if I'm using something like that's like a 20, like I said, I mean, it does push shoulders, and I'm just doing squats. Cool, that's fine. There's some applications for doing that. But when I get a lighter ball, back to what we're saying about as far as like a weight range, I train my lighter weights. Or 8-pounder for me, like high volume explosive type, and then I might jump up for my heavier based work, then I'm doing that kind of 16 through 20. We go up as high as this. And there's some cool application for heavy balls, right? You can still do some like wall balls are great, or monster throws. Like, I'll load and throw it as far as I can and sprint to it, pick it back, squat, chest pass as far as I can, do some monster throws. Stone throws or like reverse crosses. That's like when we'll get down into this ground based position and explosively throw it back as far as we really like reinforce and like explosiveness and that posterior chain. So there's some really cool, and those can be mid or heavier. With the lighter stuff, if I'm throwing it, I'm doing mobility work. Some of the stuff you're doing with breathing, like you don't wait, but you like to use the resistance or kind of the give of the ball. Like you're going to get a lot done in that. I would say I would go as wide as like 4 to 12 pounds, depending on your conditioning level, and then have like a heavy ball for that stuff that you can't get. It's just a little safer. Everything we make, I don't like the word safe necessarily, but when I'm talking to a strength coach, he's working with elite level athletes, got 20 or 30. He has to have some like high quality movement patterns that can be explosive and have a lot with minimal risk. Where a soft shell, he can leave them out close rotational patterns wall and not have to over coach because he's got to do barbell work inside. So it comes tools that high return, like low risk.
Yeah, and again, that's the thing too. It's such a safe tool. And again, like a lot of people don't feel comfortable taking a kettlebell and putting it around their head with a medicine ball, or like they're worried about it dropping on their toe. These are just common concerns, right? Again, right? And you could add so many movements into that. You could do that and go into a lunge. So what's so great about the ball, and there's a lot of ground-based applications you can use it too, but it allows you to really get into multiple planes of motion. You can train fast, you can train slower, you can mix tempos, and you can go to the ground, you can go to stand. So it really unlocks kind of, all the movement patterns and all planes of motion. And it's just a very safe training tool. And again, when you can partner up, that's when like it gets magical, like, throwing and receiving and then coming back and forth and adding rotation to it or going laterally. So there really are tons of applications. And again, I at home, I have a 10 and a 20. I also have the Atlas ball, which is a 50, which I love. You got one of those around?
I got one.
But that's a 30.
This is the lightest we make is a 30, but these go up to as much as 150. So, which is a beast. I actually like the 30. I like the 30 and 50 personally because I can kind of do a lot more with them.
Sure.
The other one, I'm like strongman type training tools. They're a lot of fun. Sometimes I use it I might even use it like a stability ball almost, use it as a bench, or like a Swiss ball. Some of the things that I might do here, I'll still use these for. But carries, lifts, like ring, plank walks. I took quite a few exercises on the Dynamax. If you look at the Dynamax USA on Instagram, like some of the highlighted things there's an Atlas ball there, and I've probably got 10 or so exercises with an Atlas ball that are just, again, it's a ball. And every time I go into a training course or meet with coaches, I'm like, hey guys, show you about 50 things. You can probably show me another 20 after this is all said and done, because it's a ball. And it's, I would say, probably the most functional training tool outside of your body that you can use, right? Because it's you're not limiting yourself with it, right? You're just ultimately, at the end of the day, what we like to say about load, especially with all of our explosive stuff, is you want to slow your movement, not destroy. So something to think about, like if I'm getting to the point where I'm having to like muscle through something, I'm probably starting to kind of we're messing with the sequencing of our muscle firing. So if I'm working with an athlete, I have to be very careful. I don't want to like have him muscling through something if it could impact his stroke or his swing or his throw, right? So we want him to be explosive, and I want to slow his pattern down and train these powerful movements, them to be, like you say, grunting through it, because then it becomes more, we're tapping into different. we're not always going for.
And I think the best word to describe it is smooth. You see it on the courts and on the fields. People that can really express speed and power, it's smooth. It almost looks effortless, and there's a flow to it. So, that's a good thing. If you're starting to do some movements and like you feel like you're, it's more of a stop and start, or it's just not a continuous smooth pattern, the weight's probably too heavy. And again, like the heavy ball, I don't know if you've ever done this before too, but this might sound strange to some people, but I'll use the 20 or even the 50. My wife and I, and we'll do some partner massage. Like someone will lay on the ground, and you can actually take the ball and you can dig in. It's so good around the spine, the scapula. The weight of the ball actually really helps you pressure wave into the tissues. I'll use it sometimes. People struggle, like if they're chest and neck breathers, and I'll lay on the ground and I'll put it on my chest, and especially a heavier ball, it's going to prevent me from, my chest can't rise. It actually forces me to kind of pull through the diaphragm and the belly. Or I'll put it on the belly and give my belly resistance to push up against. I try to expand the balloon that is the diaphragm. So there's breathing applications, massage applications. A lot of times I'll just sit with my legs crossed and rest the ball on my hips. And again, it just kind of peels open the pelvis. You can kind of hug it. You can do some various shoulder movements. It just becomes kind of like or a lot of people, you hear these weighted blankets. Sometimes I'll lay down, I'll take a heavy med ball and I'll put it on my belly or my pelvis, and it kind of presses me into the ground and gives me more relaxation. So it really is like, it's not just a fitness athletic device. I find it to be like a true health, recovery, longevity device. And you don't need heavy weights. Again, like my recommendation is with anything, I like to have a light, medium, heavy option that allows you to do low reps, medium reps, high reps. It also allows you to do drop sets where you go from heavy, medium, and light to really get a lot done in a short period of time. One of my favorite training techniques. And the Atlas ball is also fun. It's kind of like, it's basically a padded boulder. It's like the strongman lifts. Yeah. And you can shoulder it, and it really strengthens posture too, because those thoracic extensors, when you hold this ball, you got to really pull those babies down and back, and just holding this, whether carries, squats, lunges, becomes one of those big bang for your buck movements. So again, the applications are endless. Let's talk about what do you say to people that don't have a partner or don't have a usable wall?
So there's the beauty of, like I said, open field throws, which I love, which add the element of the kind of the coordination and cardiovascular training and some of that, like the reverse throws where we stand there and just throw it backwards over your head, turn and run and get it, throw it back, grab that out, the chest standing pass. You can also do kind of a standing wall ball, almost like, we'll grab, I'm not gonna be able to do this in my studio, but you can get an idea. I can do squat and throw it and reset. So there's some of that elements as far as with the little bit heavier balls that you can do, and you get a lot of good work in that, and get explosiveness, get your heart rate up. With a lighter, I do a ton of stuff that's you can almost emulate stuff that we do from a throwing standpoint with a lighter one. So like I might things like just where I'm doing some kind of around the world or like doing chops, like you said. I might do some kind of movement patterns where I'm here. We do knee strikes. I might do a squat toss. The value in letting go of something is huge. I think that gets missed out a lot. And I'm going to get my heart rate up quick too. So the value of good.
You get hand-eye coordination too. I mean, which is critical for aging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's elements of Dynamax came up with what you call the 10 physical skill set, which is really what creates an athlete. And there's this neurological side, which is balance, accuracy, agility, and coordination. We know there's cardiovascular, endurance, stamina, flexibility, strength. And then that's all like organic changes that happen in the body. And then there's the neurological side, which is the balance, accuracy, agility, coordination. And when those all come together, like power and speed, like really clean power and speed are what are the outcomes. But the neurological side of the hand-eye coordination, the balance, agility, accuracy, you have to be accurate. Even doing a wall ball, you have to be accurate, right? Or throwing it up and catching it. Those are elements of brain training that you can't really find in the gym. I can't throw a dumbbell around the gym. I can't really throw. Most gyms only have those hard bouncing medicine balls. So all you really can do is like a Russian twist. That's all I ever see being done, or like a reach up and press. They're just so limited. But with a soft shell ball, I can chunk it, I can release it, I can throw it, I can catch it. And that's where like you don't realize how much is going on. The parts of the brain it's connected to is things like 3D spatial awareness, visual acuity, problem solving. A lot of those elements that in our brains too that start degrading as we age, we need to stimulate them. And some of those can only happen through things like throwing. Brain wired to that. So it's cool to be able to implement it, even if it's just a toss and catch. I was just showing you, you're letting your arms go out to the side, catching, throwing it up in the air, catching, all that stuff, right against your knee. All that stuff is awesome for brain training.
And I'm a big fan of the shot put throws too. Like, and so that's some of the initial workouts I saw that I love from you guys too, is just because this is like play. This is metabolic. You basically, you throw ball, jog or run to it, throw it back, jog or run to it. You set the clock for 5 or 10 minutes. This is a simple one move workout technically that is going to work your whole body, and you can do it in your backyard if you have enough space, or just go to your local park. And then if you have, kids, get your kids involved with it. It's safe. And, that's I wish I could show more. Like, you see my home gym set up here where we film. Like, I don't have a wall. My wife would kill me. And if I hit the wall, and even my outdoor, our fence, like I would probably annoy the neighbors or potentially damage the wall long-term, because I can put a little bit of hip power into it. So I would have to go to a park, and Uncle Baby doesn't have any friends to play with in the desert here. My wife doesn't like catching my balls, I guess, in multiple ends. But so yeah, there's a lot of like getting creative with letting it catch and go, or working in some claps. How many times can you clap when you let go of the ball? That's another way to get some rhythm coordination, problem solving in. And that's why I'm a big fan of the medicine ball work, and also boxing, because when you start stringing together combinations, it requires that brain work that, again, we need as we get older. So you got the slam ball. We talked about like partner versus solo exercises. Let's talk about the slog.
Oh yeah. So
I remember when you texted me, you said something big and black should have arrived at your door, and you look at it and it's like, I have no idea what I can do with this, but you sent me like 50 movements just off the top of your head. You said you saw right away when you saw this device, and it's kind of like a log. I got a 70-pounder here, and there's so many different ways you can move it, side to side, up and down. It can turn into a bench. So let's show it.
Yeah. So the slog was something I'm super excited about. We just brought it to market. Dynamax, like I mentioned earlier, we have a kind of a big heritage in obviously our military with first responders. Like, that's been a big part of their training. And I saw this as an awesome application of use for them as well. So I took it to like a tactical show recently, and just to introduce it there. And as I expected, everybody walked by me like, "We love your balls." Yes, I get that comment a lot. And we have them all. Like, we have tons of balls. What is that? And just as I expected, I was like, pick it up. And so I've got, whatever, these guys from all branches of the military and first responders, police, fire. This is amazing, right? They've been somewhat limited only with like sandbags. That's kind of all they can train. And they have to do a lot of training where they're like rescue or carries and lifts and things like that. So my first idea was like, hey, I want to introduce it here. And thankfully it's taken off. I'm going to show you why. And then we introduced it. We're part of what we call, there's the tactical games. It's kind of like the CrossFit for the military, and where there's kinds of cool training methodologies. It's become part of the tactical games. We're in the process of getting it into the ability for the military to purchase it on a large. So we're working on some of that thing. But I didn't care. That was exciting. All that is an opportunity that would solve some specifically. But for me, I was like, I wanted to train with it every day. And so Uh, when people see it, they're like, what the heck is that? So as you can see it, it's like, as BJ described it, big and black on his doorstep. Imagine it's about 3 feet long, right? It's about, let's say about 11, 12 inches in diameter. It has some give to it. We call it like a soft log, like a soft strength training log. It has some give. The heavier weights get denser, but for the most part, there's enough give in here that there's elements that you can kind of connect to, like a Bosu. If anyone's ever trained in a Bosu where there's that give on it, I can stand on this. So there's elements to see where I can it's got some give here, and I can jump on it. And there's some challenges to your balance and coordination there.
And lower impact.
Right, and lower impact, right? So I can do a lot of footwork drills on it as well. And because of its soft shell nature, like I can do anything like pick it up, kind of put it on my shoulder, lunge with it, squat with it. It becomes an easy way to kind of transition into lots of different strength training options. As you mentioned, you can put it on the ground. Can you see the ground where I am? I can sit down.
Yeah, it looks good. Yeah.
So there's elements of, I do kind of all my dumbbell training on it now. You know, I might flip it over on the other side, do my rows, tricep kickbacks. I can kind of do a whole workout with it. And then because it's a little bit odd in how you lift it, just seems like trying to clean it, like just trying to clean it, you know, maybe doing overhead presses and things.
I love can you show that the side to side stuff that you do?
Oh yeah.
That's one of the most unique things I think with the device.
Yeah. So I love, some of the things I love is like, first off, just interior, I can jump into like decel exercises where I'm like lowering like RDL type things. You can kind of move laterally. So I might do like lateral lunges with it. And then a lot of times I'll do things, which is another thing talking about sneaking in fitness with your kids is I'll do this with my kids. They're like, hey, let's do a slog flip challenge, like a bottle flip. So like you can flip it and I can do that explosive kind of like Dynamax type stuff, but then I'll try to get them to go and land it on its end. And I can't do it right now, but you can get it to land on its end after a flip.
Wow.
My 14-year-old, I think he did it after like 12 or 14 reps. He's like, yeah, I did it. And I snuck in 12 or 14 like total triple extension, like deadlift type movements. He didn't realize he was doing. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool way to get kids involved too. I'll take it. I teach PE like once a week. I'll take it. I'll set 2 or 3 of them up, and my 6 to 8 year olds. I was making flip it end over end, down in kind of race down and back, and they're having to learn how to like handle their bodies. And there's no handles on it, which is what I did. It's grippy. It's got some tack to it, so you can kind of have it. So I can do like a row or something, but it's not. There's no handles together, so you have to figure it out. You have to learn how to maneuver it without it being obvious. So, and I love that for kind of all populations.
Man, it's really good stuff. So, I mean, really, it's an excellent like arsenal of tools. You've got the traditional padded ball, you've got the slam ball, now you've got the slog, and it really unlocks so many different patterns. You could circuit all those different moves together, all those different tools together. And again, they work really well with our classic body weight, band, bell moves too. So it's just, to me, we tell people like, we'll give you X number of body workouts every month just in case, but we're always going to be using dumbbells, med balls, and bands because that's kind of the ultimate home gym setup.
Mm-hmm. So for these, and that's 100%. Like you can hook a band around this as well. Do some of your band work. Weight wise, these go 50 to 150 pounds. And like after like 90, which is like I have a gray 90 back there, like it gets kind of stupid.
It gets ugly.
And again, it's like one of those things where like we're part of the tactical games right now, and they've got 125s in there and hundreds, and they're doing like heavy, like clean it up, put it over a bar, go back and forth type stuff. it grows. Personally, I like the 60 to 70 pound, because I can do it. I can get a lot of work done with that. Like to your point, I can move from one movement to the next, or I can jump on it, and then I might just go, like I might be doing chest press, like I did, just lay down, do chest press, hop up, grab it, and just like curl the shoulder, like I'm just going up and down. I got to curl the shoulder. Then I might get down and do something like strikes, where you're here and like just rotational, like strike into it. I'm getting some of that rotational and kind of MMA style stuff. So for me, like I didn't want, Dynamax has been around 37 years, as I told you, and there have been close calls to bringing things to market under the Dynamax brand that would not have done it justice, right? Would not have held true to the integrity and heritage of the brand, of who they are as working with athletes, or working with the quality of product that you would want or expect, right? So that's the big thing. I don't want something to be associated with Dynamax that I wouldn't 100% be like, I love this. It's, it's made in the US. It's everything that you would expect from a Dynamax product. So these are the Slam Ball and the SLOG are the first kind of offshoots of Dynamax in its history, really. And they've just come out this year. So it's taken 37 years to bring something else to market, let's just say. So that's not going to happen lightly. And so I'm pumped about it. I hope the SLOG takes off for the sake of like the home gym and guys who follow you, because it all of a sudden it just opens up a ton of stuff that you could do with one product, or maybe add a med ball and a band, and like you literally could get an insane workout and get the BJ guns as a result.
Man, no, I didn't even think about it as a way to extend the range of motion for dumbbell exercise on the floor. No, it's really unique, and it's got like this cool mix of like it's not a sandbag, but like it really will challenge your gripping muscles to be able to hold on to. I think it's super unique, and I'm like you said, you may have already sold during the pandemic all the traditional Dynamax balls you can. Any good business has to diversify and give their and get repeat buys from their customers. So we have a lot of trainers, business people that listen to, and I think it's smart business, and it's really in line with the brand.
Yeah, cool. I'm glad you see it. And you were obviously one of the first people I sent one to and contacted about it, because I knew you would get it just from our history of knowing each other and the space that we've worked in, especially in men's health, like in that world and communicating to that world. There's a bunch of things that people could go invest in, but like there's a few things that you would get the most out of your money, like doing it. And as you know, there's just a few things. It doesn't take a lot. I like the toys. I love machines. I love, selectorized equipment. And if I go into a gym, I feel like, yeah, this is awesome, because I'm not in them that often. Right. And I bet you're the same way. You walk into like a Lifetime Fitness or something, like, what do I do first? And like, you just feel like a kid in a candy shop. And I love all that stuff. But at the end of the day, back to the point, what are people going to adopt? What is going to be the most useful, solve their problems, easy for them to access and be able to do a lot of things in limited space. And there's not a ton of things you can do that with. And, so I'm trying to like keep it in that family.
And it's cool that you can strike it. I mean, it's really like the ball, it's padded enough that, it's going to be comfortable on your skin. And this company has been around a long time, because the website is literally medicineballs.com.
Yeah.
How did you guys, that's some primo real estate on the internet, man.
Yeah. Somebody was like, why don't you have Dynamax? I'm like, are you kidding me? We have medicineballs.com. Like, if you understand anything about the internet, if people are going to search something, right? Like we're going to be the first. And every time someone, and to that point, we have a lot of people who, and you may ask this question, like, does any medicine ball, because there's a lot of options right now. Like a lot of companies came and kind of made their own version of the Dynamax medicine ball. My responsibly, you get what you pay for in this world, right? And I think we know that, right? What you invest in, you could invest in like BJ's online training system, or this guy who just started last year and trying to figure it all out, whatever, for a lot less money. But if you want to have gains and you want to grow and you want to do these things, then like what you invest in is going to yield those results. So you can go buy a knockoff, we call them knockoff med ball. And it will be a piece of crap. I guarantee it. Like it might hold up for a little bit. It will be things that people don't realize when you buy like another brand of medicine ball. Like when you're looking for a soft shell 14-inch ball, people don't realize that there's things like balance. Like those things are stuffed, right? And then we have to test them. We spin them. We do a lot of things. But if it's not done with people who have knowledge or with good quality ingredients, with almost everything in the ball is recycled post-consumer materials too. Like we try to keep it like a green product. So you don't know what they'll stuff in there. Like it could be something crazy. So whatever they stuff in there, we have to test to make sure it spins correctly. It's balanced. That the stitching is like it's such high quality that it's gonna hold up and that is a problem about Dynamax. Good for the consumer is the ball's going to last forever, right? Like it's a one-time investment, and you take care of that thing. Like you're going to have it for like my best ball is over 10 years old, and I wouldn't technically need to go back and buy another one still after 10 years. So we're just now getting repeat customers from like the 90s, like people. I was at the University of Tennessee. These guys, I can say this because I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee, but I went and I was at their baseball program, and I pulled up. I was my son was taking a baseball camp there, and out in the bullpen, I look over and there's this all black Dynamax medicine ball sitting up on the wall. I'm like, what is that? And I walk over, and it's an old sewn on label, like it's a Dynamax ball from like the 90s. And I was like, and I picked it up as a 14, and it was like in perfect condition. I was like, are you kidding me? And it's been there since 20 something years, perfect condition. So I said, they wouldn't give it to me, but I took pictures of it, and I made them a series of like new balls, and had them take a picture of it, kind of the same spot with this other ball. They'll last forever. I know it's kind of like I'm not trying to have a sales pitch, but like you get what you pay for. Invest into like one or two really good quality med balls, and it will pay off, for another decade, and then your kids can train with it and whatever else you do.
No, man, I love it. And you set us up with a coupon code to get 10% off. Does that apply to all the products? Yes. I will make sure it applies to all the products. So that would be we have just to understand, we have the Atlas ball, which we talked about. That's that 22-inch stone, the Atlas stone. We have our Dynamax standard ball, which is our bread and butter. We have the elite version of that. It's a little more expensive, the triple stitch. We have our mini. So this is our 10-inch diameter. So this is as you can see, it's more narrow, right? So we used to call this our one-hander, but a lot of athletes use this for stuff. But this is great for kids too, because it'll smaller shoulders as well. And then we have the SLOG, and then we have our Dynamax D ball, which is a slam ball. That's a 9-inch ball. So it's just a little bit smaller than that. The reason we did the 9-inch is because it's approved with the military. The Army have a test called the ACFT test, this Army Combat Fitness Test, and they have to have this specific ball. So we created that size first for the military because they needed it. And then we're coming out with that slam ball, that big indestructible. We're coming out with the 14-inch version of that, which I'll send you one, like I said, and then that will be the solution for those who are really limited and want to do more slamming patterns, or they're only going to train with it mostly outdoors. That'll give them some of the same opportunities that they can with the soft shell ball without having to worry about damaging it. Love it, man. I'm going to drop the link and coupon code in the description for the audio and video podcast. Please support this company. I believe in this company. They one of the things that I look for is not just quality equipment, but I love it when there's education around product, because it's not just about selling. It's about culture. It's about people really getting the most out of the product and safely, etc. So check out those links. Jeremy, thanks for your time today, man. It was really fun. Those watching this to be able to see some of these moves in action. And again, you can follow Dynamax on all outlets. You feel free to plug anything right now, link wise, or
sure. Yeah.
Obviously the main website will have links to all social too.
Yeah, we're medicineballs.com. Our social is just Dynamax USA. And I do a lot of the posting to the Dynamax site. I'm at Jeremy Shore for like Instagram. I'm pretty much only on Instagram. But as far as the Facebook and Instagram go, Dynamax USA, follow them. I do try to post a lot of content. I try to post exercises and kind of a move of the week type thing. And we're growing that more and more as I'm kind of back on board with Dynamax. So if there's anything you even think of and you want me to post, BJ, I'll do it and tag you and be like, this is for BJ. But whatever you want. Yeah, so I'd be excited if some people would kind of come on and engage with us and be part of kind of our family.
Love it, man. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back with more episodes, of course. And if you are on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. Ask any questions in the comments. And if you're on traditional outlets, iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, a 5-star rating and review is much appreciated. This is my go-to medicine ball. And as you mentioned in this podcast, other products too that just came out to add to your arsenal. I highly recommend it for any home gym. And it's in mine, and I recommend it for yours. Love you guys. Peace.